Welcome to part 4 of the bow setup video series. If you haven't watched the first 3 parts of the series, I'd strongly suggest you go do that, especially part 3 on paper tuning the bow. One of the struggles I used to always face was when I'd put broadheads on at the end of the summer, and I could never get my broadheads to hit exactly where my field points had been hitting all spring and summer. I'd shoot all summer at 3D shoots, then just simply switch out the broadheads and start shooting and notice they were off by anywhere from 3 or 4, even up to 6 inches, even as close as 20 yards. So to solve the problem, I just bought a second sight, and I put a second sight on that was sighted in for my broadheads and used the other sight for my field points. What I didn't realize was my bow was not properly tuned, or that my arrows weren't properly tuned. It wasn't necessarily an issue of broadheads just don't simply fly the same as field points, it was a tuning issue. Paper tuning will get you really close, but you might notice a difference in where your broadheads hit from your field points unless you tune for broadhead flight. Now that I've started doing that, my broadheads fly exactly the same as my field points. I can literally stand out at 80 yards, shoot a field point, follow it up with a broadhead, and hit in the exact same place. No more switching out sights or any other crazy archery tricks there. So what we're going to do today is make sure the bow is dialed in for broadheads, make sure that broadheads and field points are flying the same and shooting the same. So to start with, I'm just going to sight in my 20-yard pin just very roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. We're going to do another video on setting up the sight and making sure that sight tapes and everything are good. For the purpose of today's video, I'm just going to shoot a couple arrows, get it so that I'm hitting the spot at 20 yards, and then we'll pull out the broadheads and see where we're hitting with those. So we're shooting the same bow, the prime Logic CT5 that we shot in part 3. The bow's been set up, new rest, peep sight. The sight's been installed on it, and we've paper tuned it, as you saw in part 3. Paper tuned, it's shooting bullet holes, really confident how the arrow's going to fly even out at longer distances. But again, we want to get it so that the broadheads are hitting exactly the same as the field points. Looks like we're a couple inches low. Looks like we're right about there. All right, should be good. The field points, I'll go and check up close, but it looks like we're hitting the 2-inch spot here at 20 yards. If that's the case, we're just going to grab an arrow with the broadhead on it, shoot it at the broadhead target, and see if we're hitting the same place there. Now that we've got the 20-yard pin dialed in with field points, I've just put a broadhead on, shooting the new G5 Striker V2, and we're going to shoot it at the broadhead target and see where it hits. Typically, if you're paper tuned, you aren't going to see much of a difference high or low once you put the broadhead on, but sometimes you'll see some variation left and right. Typically left with the broadhead, shooting a little bit left where the field point hits. From there, it's simple, just quick little adjustments to the rest to dial it in. It's still going to be paper tuned, and our broadheads and field points will shoot exactly the same from that point forward. And it looks like we're pretty good. Might be just a touch high, so we'll shoot it again and make sure, but looked like it flew good. It looked like left and right's good, so I think we might have gotten lucky with our paper tuning and got it dialed in just exactly right. All right, so it looks like we are dead center on alignment left and right, just a touch high. That could be, and probably was, just me with the shot, so we'll shoot again, make sure it's good. From there, we have confidence to know broadheads and field points are shooting pretty much the same. I will slide back to 40 yards and do the same thing at 40 yards just to make sure. And from there, obviously we'll shoot farther distances, but 20 and 40 usually give me a good enough indication and confidence that broadheads are flying just like the field points. Okay, I'm just going to take one more shot here with the broadhead and make sure that we're good to go, that it was just me that last time that shot an inch or so high. And if everything's good, we'll move back to 40, repeat the process. If the broadhead is hitting left or right from where the field point's hitting, it's just a simple adjustment left or right on the rest, just very minute adjustment. And I don't know if there's one way versus another that makes the most sense, but typically I'll just move it out just a fraction and shoot it again. If they're farther apart than what they were, I move it the opposite direction until I get them to where they line up and they're both hitting the same place. And then from there, it's a matter of just sighting in with field points and knowing that you're ready to shoot broadheads at any time. So it looks like that arrow is right there. Might be a touch low, but left and right again is perfect in that top dot. I'm just going to shoot one more field point just at the same time here, back to back, just to make sure that both arrows are going right where they're supposed to. I think we're good. All right, so you can see this is a field point. Slightly to the right, center, we're off by 3/8 of an inch or a 1/2 inch to the right. With the broadhead, you'll notice we're off by 1/4 inch to 3/8. I'm not accurate enough at this point to make that differentiation there, but I would say for the most part, the broadheads are going to fly just the same as the field points. We'll go back to 40 and make sure that it's, we're going to notice a little bit more difference and spread there if there is an issue. But I think with our paper tuning, we got it dialed in really good with paper tuning, and it translates to broadheads and field points shooting the same here out in the field. All right, so we're back at 40 yards, and I'm just going to shoot a field point and follow it up with broadhead and just make sure that they're hitting in the same place at 40, which I would expect them to be. 20 would look like it was pretty much right on. If they're hitting the same place at 40, I'm confident to be able to go ahead and sight in the bow and know I'm not going to have to change anything or do any retuning when I put broadheads on, and ready to go out and hunt with broadheads this fall. I think that's right there. I'll walk up and see, but it looked like I'm on the right side of the dot, which the field point was a touch right as well. Again, the pins aren't sighted in, so we're doing this just to get a relative closeness to how close the broadheads and the field points are hitting. So I think looks like we're right there. All right, so you can see first shot with the field point, we're off again, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch to the right, just slightly low. The broadhead, almost the exact same, 3/4 of an inch to the right, maybe 1/8 of an inch low. So you can see Broadhead's field points shooting exactly the same. I think at this point we're super confident that when I go to put Broadheads on and hunt with this bow, it's going to shoot exactly the same. I'm not going to have to make any changes. We spend all summer shooting our bow to gain confidence. We gain that confidence. There's no reason to go and put a Broadhead on that arrow and have a difference in how the bow's shooting or where the arrows are hitting and destroy all that confidence as we start all over and now shoot Broadheads and try to gain confidence in them. The entire setup will work with field points or Broadheads. We're confident in it, and we can shoot 3D, we can shoot at home and practice, or we can grab the same bow, put Broadheads on our arrows, head to the woods, and be confident knowing that bow's going to shoot. The success rate for do-it-yourself public land elk hunters hovers around 10%. The reality of that statement is that 9 out of 10 elk hunters each fall fail to fill their tag, or the average elk hunter only fills their elk tag once every 10 years. But average no longer applies to you. Crush the averages and sign up for the University of Elk Hunting online course today and become a consistently successful elk hunter.